Grandma, run away now. My grandson, a junior high school student who was usually unfriendly, approached and complained to me. His right hand was held out to me, who was unsure of the reason and asked why. "What's it? What does it mean?" When I saw what was in his hand, I felt a chill run down my spine. "Let's run away together." However, my grandson looked at me with sharp eyes as I was frightened. "I've got things to do. It's okay. I'll help you, Grandma." I decided to join forces with my grandson to hunt them down to the ends of hell. I'm Yolanda, a 63-year-old stay-at-home mom. I met my husband when he was a doctor and I worked as a pharmacist at the same hospital. After getting married, I supported my husband as a full-time housewife, but 3 years ago, he died and I was living alone. He left me a big mansion and assets, so I didn't have any problems with my life. I felt unsatisfied every day. The reason would be that I couldn't meet my son and grandchild. If they lived far away, I could give up, but my son's family was in the town next to mine. My son Glenn was 35 years old, and my daughter-in-law Sarah was 25 years old, 10 years younger, and lived with his 13-year-old grandson Kendall. In fact, Glenn had divorced his ex-wife and remarried Sarah. Therefore, the age difference between the daughter-in-law and my grandson is only 12 years. It's more like a sister and brother than a parent and child. I was frustrated with my son who laughed like that. I couldn't help but think of Glenn's ex-wife, Brianna. She was a smart and caring person, and she was kind to me and often took Kendall with her to meet me. However, when my grandson was 10 years old, she found out about Glenn's affair and became mentally ill, so she decided to recuperate at her parents' house. I blamed Glenn for feeling sorry for Brianna. "Why did you have an affair when you have such a good wife? Besides, she is 10 years younger." "I can't help it because I've found someone else I like, right? The younger ones are always better." It was a selfish argument even though it was my son. It seems that he met his cheating partner at a fan gathering of his favorite celebrity, but for the fact that she was dating even she found out that the partner was married, I felt uncomfortable with the woman. "You have a child, so why don't you sincerely apologize to Brianna and start over?" "Oh, shut up, old people." He yelled at me in a terrible way, and from then on he became cold to me. In the end, Brianna divorced Glenn. Because she was recuperating, Kendall's custody was reinstated by Glenn, and my son remarried Sarah, who had been having an affair. To be honest, I didn't like Sarah. Not only did she treat Brianna badly, but her self-centered, flamboyant lifestyle didn't suit me. Her hair was dyed blonde, and her nails were long and shiny with flashy makeup. She couldn't cook or do laundry with such a situation, and I was worried about how she was doing my daily life. When the family came to my house on Christmas right after they got married. "Mother-in-law, I don't feel good when you stare at me. Do you have any complaints?" "Oh, I'm sorry, but I thought it was strange to think that a young lady like you would be Kendall's mom. Sarah, you're 22 years old, aren't you?" I want to live alone with Glenn, but I was surprised that such a big kid would stick with him. "Please take care of Kendall." I became more and more anxious when I saw her click her tongue at my words. Sarah also considered me a nuisance, and I hardly saw her after that. However, I was able to meet Kendall only on Christmas. Apparently, he didn't want to take Kendall to go back to Sarah's parents' house far away for Christmas. Kendall, it's been a long time since we've seen each other. I missed you so much. I'm going to make a lot of whatever you want so that you can eat them. Thank you, Grandma. I missed you too. How's it going to be your home? Okay. Kendall laughed silently and sadly when I asked about his house. He was 10 years old when he broke up with Brianna, who gave birth to him, so he should have known why his parents divorced and why his mother couldn't take him in. It made me sad to think about what was in my grandson's heart. From his dark expression, I was worried that Kendall would not be badly treated by Sarah, who was not connected by blood, but whenever I called, she answered and disconnected coldly. However, my son and his wife, who didn't like me, suddenly approached me about living together when Kendall had just entered junior high school. I'm worrying about your living alone because you're old enough. Sarah also agreed. I'll do all the housework and mother-in-law should take her time. They said kind things, but I felt uncomfortable because it was so different from their previous attitude. Thank you. But I'm still fine. Even if it's the case now, you're old enough. I'm sorry, can you give some time to think about it? However, a week later, before I agreed to live with them, my son and his wife asked a contractor to move in a large truck. Mom, we're here. Mother-in-law, hi. I was puzzled by their aggressive behavior, but I was more concerned about Kendall, who was looking down at a little further away. Kendall, how are you? Kendall looked away instead of answering my question. Unlike the last time I had met him on Christmas, when I met him for the first time in a long time, he was very unfriendly and didn't say a word. My son says, puberty is so difficult period that he doesn't even talk to us, but I didn't think so. I'm sure there's something to it. I was forced to live with my son and his wife, but I thought it might have been good because I could watch over my grandson closely. Besides, it was a big house left by my late husband, so I certainly felt like it would be a waste to live alone. Leave me cooking, mother-in-law. But Sarah, those nails. Oh, you cut them neat. Ha, I changed my mind. She had cut her nails that was shiny and long, and changed to light makeup, re-dyed her hair black, so she certainly looked like she had changed. Sarah took the initiative in cleaning and doing laundry. However, the seasoning of the food was so strong that it didn't suit my taste, but I couldn't complain about the fact that she had made it for me. Apart from that, I was happy that Sarah had changed, but I was still worried about Kendall. After living with them, I realized that my grandson was not only unfriendly to me, but also not spoke to his parents at all. No, he only bowed his head to me in greeting, but he didn't even do that to his parents. Somehow, Kendall has become silent. I'm sure it's cute for a little child, but I hope a cheeky kid in junior high school leaves the house early. Oh. Sarah held her mouth shut, but the murmur she said casually revealed that she thought Kendall was a nuisance. I felt extra sorry for my grandson, and I tried my best to talk to him lovingly. I wonder what kind of adult Kendall will become. Your grandma will be fine until then. You'll be always my treasure. I felt that Kendall looked at me for a moment and tried to say something, but when he noticed that Sarah was behind me, he fell silent again. I told my grandson that I would always be fine, but after I started living with my son, I suddenly felt weak. Sometimes I had to stay in bed with symptoms such as high fever, sore throat, and reddened skin. I thought I was young, but I have become old too. I lost weight rapidly and was starting to feel glad that I lived with my son's family. Yes, I didn't know anything at that time. One day, my son and his wife decided to go on a trip. It's our wedding anniversary, so we're going to a road trip in about 3 days and 2 nights. That sounds good. I invited Kendall to join us, but he said he didn't want to, so we're going to leave him. Okay, I'll be waiting for you with Kendall. When my son and his wife went out in a hurry, my grandson went into my son's room and started doing something. After a while, he ran out of the room with pale face. Grandma, run away now. Kendall, what are you talking about? Kendall held out his right hand to me, who was confused by the suddenness. What's it? What does it mean? When I saw what was in his hand, I felt a chill run down my spine. A small vial in the palm of his hand. As I had worked as pharmacist, I knew right away that it was a poison to me. It's a common cold medicine, but I once had an allergic reaction to it and had anaphylactic shock. Only my family should know about it, and after that I was surprised by what my grandson said actually. And my clenched fists shook with anger, and I immediately decided to run to the police with my grandson. Let's run away together. But my grandson looked straight at me with sharp eyes. I've got things to do. It's okay. I'll help you, Grandma. At this time, he was thinking about something I didn't expect. In fact, my grandson had excelled in computers and programming since childhood. Whenever there was something he didn't understand, he immediately looked it up on his own, and his inquisitive spirit grew more and more. Knowing this, I bought my grandson a computer and a mobile phone as Christmas gift. Even after my son remarried Sarah, every year I would meet Kendall and ask him what he wanted, and if necessary, I would give him everything. I'm sorry I've ignored you. I love my grandma. I didn't speak to catch them off guard. My grandson's kind words brought tears to my eyes and gave me courage. Never forgive them. I decided to discipline my son and his wife, who were enjoying the trip with great enthusiasm. Sure enough, in the night of the departure day, my son and his wife came back with pale face. I pretended I didn't know anything. Oh, you've got home pretty early. Didn't you plan to stay 2 more nights? Then Glenn opened his eyes wide and spoke quickly, spitting. That's pretty strange. When I tried to eat at a restaurant, I got turned away because it's fully booked, and every hotel told me it's fully booked and turned us away. Even when we stop at a gas station, the employees there are pointing at us and talking. I struggled to hold back the urge to blow out. It's kind of creepy. Did you do something? What are you talking about? It's funny. My son, who seemed to have a lot of clues, twisted his neck while not looked me in his eyes. In fact, the grandson always knew Glenn's whereabouts with a GPS app. He used it to get in touch with hotels, restaurants, and gas stations ahead of time. People who have committed sins will go there, so you should be careful. My son's excitement still didn't seem to subside. And for some reason the president is furious, and I'm taking paid leave. But he's saying, "That's canceled. I'm going to fire you right away." It doesn't make any sense at all. It's crazy to say that for no reason. Let's sue them. In order to protest the company, my son and his wife hurriedly returned from a trip within that day. He was complaining in a way that he couldn't understand. Well, if you spend the company's money, you'll be fired. Glenn jumped up at my words and glared at me. No. What are you going to say all of a sudden? I wouldn't do that, would I? Oh, so what is this? So I gave him printed copies of the evidence of his embezzlement. What? Why, you can't use a computer, can you? No, I've never touched it. It was funny that my son had been dazzled, but it wasn't a case of laughing. In fact, my grandson, who sensed the suspicious movements of my son and his wife, checked Glenn's computer in advance. By coincidence, he found out that Glenn had illegally put the company's money into his pocket and printed the fact out and gave it to me. I left Glenn staring at the print dumbfounded, and when I stood in the kitchen as if nothing had happened, his wife hurriedly called out to me. "Oh, mother-in-law, I'll make the meal." "No thanks. If you make me get poison, I'll get sick again." "Ha, you old bag. When I treated you nicely, you have taken advantage." She was cursing me foul-mouthed with bloodshot eyes, and she was the same as she was when I met her at first time. "You finally revealed your true nature, and I can't believe you've been playing a good wife to trap me. I almost cheated." "Mom, what's the matter? Your wild idea. She can't try to kill you, right? Don't say terrible things." Then Kendall appeared with the vial. "I know you're mixing this into my grandma's dishes, and it's terrible even if you want money. Don't say weird things without evidence. That medicine was prescribed to me when I had a cold, and I don't use it on my mom. I know it's going to poison her." His face was pale and sweat was pouring out of his forehead, but he was trying his best to play innocent. Kendall then played the audio of my son and his wife talking about taking my life. In fact, my grandson, who overheard their conversation a few nights ago. The two of them, who continued to have luxury life and play around, spent more money than they earned. When my husband died, I split half of his savings, but they used it up and went into debt. So they set their eyes on the real estate in my name and tried to go after my life and get it. When my grandson saw that I was sick, he thought there was something strange, so he searched the room of his parents to find the medicine. And he also recorded a video of my daughter-in-law putting medicine into my soup. It seemed that at that time my grandson secretly replaced the soup with my son's. Before you know it. Sensing that there was no excuse, my son and his wife changed their attitude and began to beg for forgiveness. "Mom, I'm sorry, I just couldn't resist the temptation. I need money." "Why don't you pay them back from your own income?" My debt has ballooned to $50,000. I couldn't pay back the interest, so I borrowed from an even more dangerous company. Now we have $100,000. Mother-in-law, please. Give your property to Glenn. If I don't pay it back, I'm going to be in trouble. Mom, please. I wanted to cover my ears to the dismayed remarks of my son. I don't want to hear it from you. Clean up the debts you made by playing with yourself. And you forgot that you tried to kill me. Why make excuses at the police? Police? Are you going to report your son? Bonnie, take the evidence. My son and daughter-in-law, who approached me in the appearance of demons, snatched the print of the evidence from me and began to tear it up. In the meantime, Kendall pulled me by the hand and rushed out and got on the back of my grandson's bicycle. Wait! When I turned around at the horrific yell, Glenn chased me with a bright red face, spilling sweat, tears, and something I didn't know what I was. Behind him, my daughter-in-law fell flat and was crying as hard as she could. Leaving the two of them behind, the bicycle we rode picked up speed. I was relieved and held on tightly to my grandson's back. The breeze on my cheeks was pleasant and refreshing. It's been decades since I rode a bicycle. We then ran straight to the police station and presented the evidence that we had copied and the recording of the conversation that my son and his wife had confessed to various things. Subsequently, the son and his wife were arrested based on various evidence. It is certain that the crime of trying to kill a person will be seriously guilty. If they get out of prison, they will have a hard time paying off their debts and there is no one to help them. I, on the other hand, am now living with Kendall. Actually, Brianna lives together. Her condition has settled down and she is now working as a caregiver. Kendall has become to laugh a lot, which makes me happy.